Welcome to Flute Tube. Today we're going to talk about the psychology of playing difficult notes on the flute. Because the longer that you play your flute, the more you experience that every note has certain tendencies. Some notes just tend to work a lot better on the flute than other notes, and they tend to be mostly the same notes for all of us. For instance, the C sharp in the staff we all dislike. It can just so easily be a little hollow and hooty and high in pitch because you have no fingers down. There are other notes that just universally seem to not work very well, like high F sharp doesn't come out very well. High E if you don't have a split E, which the majority of flutists out there in the world do not. So the question becomes, how do we best deal with these notes that don't respond as well? Because as with everything else that we do on the flute, we're thinking so hard, we're working so hard that we tend to overcompensate. We see that there's a high F sharp coming and we think, oh no, here comes that high F sharp, I'm going to have to work extra hard to make it sound good. And we tense up and we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. It doesn't work as well because of our mentality or our psychology about that note. We tend to tense up and work too hard. The question is, how do we deal with these notes that are our least favorite notes and tweak our psychology so that we can play them and get them to come out the very best we possibly can make them sound without getting in our own way? There are some easy answers. Those are doing things we all know we're supposed to do, like tone studies, working specifically on these notes with specific goals in mind and practicing them in our scales, all those things. But there's also a psychological trick that I like to use that's kind of a quick, easy fix. But before I give this to you, since I'm giving you this quick fix, maybe like this video, consider subscribing to my channel. That would be great. Now that you've taken care of that, let's go on to this quick, easy fix. Here's our trick for today. Say that you're playing a piece and you're coming up on a high F sharp that you kind of dread, you don't like this note. Tell yourself that it's a nearby note that you like quite well. For me, I could pretend it's a G or an F. I like either of those notes quite well. When there's a note I particularly don't like a high F sharp, and I'm using this little mind trick, I personally prefer to think of coming down to it from a nearby note that's right above, for reasons that I'll explain in just a minute. Similarly, if I'm coming up on a high E, I might tell myself, if I dread that E, oh, it's just a high F, and then try to trick my brain as best I can into truly believing I'm not playing an E, I'm playing an F. It's kind of like the thing where you pat your head and rub your tummy, that your fingers, of course, have to do the right thing, but you don't want your brain to be aware. You want to tell your brain, no, no, it's not an F sharp, it's a G. Oh, don't worry, little brain, it's not an E, it's just an F. While your fingers just in an isolated, independent way finger that note that you're kind of dreading. Going along with this, I do a little tone study, and this is where I'll explain why I tend to favor thinking of a note above that dreaded note. If I'm getting ready to play an F sharp that I dislike, I'll play the G above it and get the best G I possibly can, and then I'll tell myself, I'm not changing anything. Nothing at all is changing. I'm still playing a G, but I'll move my fingers. That pat your head, rub your tummy thing again. So that I'm getting the most glorious F sharp that I can that sounds and behaves just like that high G. And we tend to tense up a little bit when we go up, and we tend to release a little tension when we come down. So I would rather think of a G and then release the tension down to the F sharp, then think of an F, and then go up to the F sharp. But that's my own feeling. Certainly it's not wrong if you want to think of an F and then go up to the F sharp, especially if you really love playing high Fs and you don't love Gs so much. The same tone study would be great for the high E. Play your F, feel really great about it, get the best glorious sound that you can make on a high F. Tell your brain, nothing's changing, I'm just playing this F, I'm just hanging out on the F, and then let your fingers move to the E without changing anything else. There's another place that I like to use this kind of psychological trick to improve the quality of my notes, and that's at register extremes. If you're in your low register or your high register, we tend to overcompensate again. We tend to think, oh no, here I am playing my low C or my low B if you have a low B foot joint, and I'm at the very bottom of my register. I'm really gonna have to work and find this note and force it to sound good. And then we tense up and we do too much work and we shoot ourselves in the foot. I like to tell myself that I am not at the bottom of my register. There are still a few notes below that low B. One way that I personally like to do this is temporarily pretend that I'm playing an alto flute. The alto flute will go to a G below our low B. So if I'm playing a low B and I tell myself I'm playing an alto flute, I trick my mind, just convince myself I've still got a few notes down there below where I'm playing. I just tend to relax and open better and not work so hard and shoot myself in the foot trying to get to the bottom of my register. Similarly, in the top register, if you're thinking, oh no, it's a high D, I've got to work so hard, we're going to tense up, we're going to squeeze, we're going to make things work less well than they really should by overdoing the effort. So again, if you play enough piccolo that you know what it feels like to play a piccolo, you can tell yourself, I'm playing the piccolo here, I'm playing the D that's the same pitch on the piccolo, I've still got up to my high C that I could play. Mentally, that gives you almost a full octave above where you're playing, and you don't feel like, oh no, I'm playing one of my very highest notes, this is not going to work very well. I'm sorry to tell you that playing these mental tricks on yourself can make things better, but it's true, it really can. Do yourself the favor of using these little psychological tricks. It will help some of these bad notes to sound better. And yes, Santa Claus is real and there is an Easter bunny and a tooth fairy.